Four, three, two, and one. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, geek and geekettes, all those of this planet and not of this planet, thank you so very much for tuning into this fabulous little podcast. Hi there, hello there, peace and love. I am Big Baba Rob, your ever effervescent host, and I'm here to move my phone so it doesn't vibrate on the table while I am podcasting. And this is the Black Geeks podcast for the week of, what's it, October 25th. We're going to bring you some geekiness of the week, but I can't go any further without telling you about the wonderful geeks that are also on the show with me. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to present to you the Potbelly Samurai. Good day, sir.
I am not really here. I am not the samurai that you're looking for.
Oh no, Potbelly Samurai didn't make it to the show today. So I guess we're just going to be me and the illustrious Darth Geekonius. Darth Geekonius, good day, sir.
Hello.
Not the Sith that you're looking for either.
Oh, wait a minute now. I'm not doing this show. I'm gonna tell you right now. If I have to do the show, I'm actually gonna hit some people up on Twitter like, hey, I got this show right, and I'm by myself, right? So yeah, I'll transform for cookies. So why don't you come on? So why don't you come on over?
That joint really should. That joint really should say, "We'll transform for cookies, we'll twerk for cake."
Whoa! Wait a minute.
Twerk for cake.
Hey, I know it's been a long time since
Somebody
I said
play the music.
Well, no, I said it, but twerking will bring about the end of civilization. That is my opinion. Yes, it will totally destroy civilization as we know it. So thank you so much for tuning in. We may have other geeks joining us. Today we're going to talk about a couple of different things. I know that we want to talk about the Force Unleashed trailer, Jessica Jones trailer, and we're also going to talk about a little hashtag that popped up this week, and the amazing amount of ignorant racism that popped up, and we definitely want to just. I'm not gonna talk a little. We've talked about it before, but man, oh man, it was. We just gotta talk about it because we're Black Geeks. We talk about Black Geek stuff, and we'll talk about whatever else comes up on the show because, as you know, it's a roundtable, so we just kind of roll with it. I'm curious. Did any of you guys happen to notice the title to the show last week?
Honestly, I did not. I unfortunately was not paying that close attention.
That's okay. I
Famously so, I was too busy making jokes like for most of the show.
Yes, I know. It's perfectly fine.
This light is too much. I'm going dark.
Here you go. He's going dark. He's gonna blend into the background.
I was about to say you can't go that dark. We might lose you.
Hey.
Yay! A dark-skinned person joke. Original. Excited.
Sure.
Joke, pointing out the contrast between light and dark.
It's a poor lighting joke. That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Just a poor lighting joke. Okay. Anyway,
darker than you are.
If you get a chance, you can actually. This is a good opportunity to tell you that if you get a chance, you can always go to the Black Geeks on Facebook. We do post our shows there, and the titles of the shows do show up there. We're also on Tumblr and on Twitter. You can always check out and see what the title of the shows are. But last week, the title of the show. Wait, actually, let me just go ahead and pull it up because I was incredibly proud of last week's title. As you guys know, I go with like these really, really random titles for the show. So last week's show was Serpentor and the Roundtable of Cobra Law. I just had to throw that one back. The title of this week's show is A Roundtable of Castle Grayskull. So yeah, I was going back to 80s cartoons. I just love messing around with the titles of the show. I have not logged into the YouTube chat yet, so while Darth Geekonius does the news, I'm gonna log into the chat and see if anybody's on YouTube. Chatting. Okay, nobody's there yet, so maybe some folks will join once I tweet out some more stuff. But let us get going with the news of the week, ladies and gentlemen. Our what do I want to call you, man? You're like our editor-in-chief of Geekdom News. Ladies and gentlemen, Darth Geekonius with the news of the week. Take it away, Darth Geekonius.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Darth Geekonius.
So this week's Sith news, if we're still calling it the Sith news, this week we had the Star Wars trailer, of course, was released this week, and people lost their stuff. It also coincided with the release of the tickets for Star Wars, The Force Awakens, which basically broke the internet. There was barely a movie ticketing website that was functional because of the deluge of people trying to get tickets for the show in December, releasing December 18th, or for those who are getting the early show, like us, on December 17th. So it was a big week for Star Wars. There also was some ignorance going on before that. So the breaking of the internet actually redeemed the ignorance. So I won't get into that. I guess we'll get into a little bit later. Also this week, Marvel and Netflix have released a full trailer for Jessica Jones. For those who have been following, they did a couple of teasers, but this time they returned with a full-on trailer that also features Luke Cage, and we even get a little glimpse of Luke Cage, Jessica Jones action, or as someone explained in a video I was watching, Kevin Smith's, ultimate porno or whatever. But anyway, move right along. There was some other news this week, of course. Apple announced that they will be pre-orders for the new Apple TV go on Monday next week, the 27th. And for those who are wondering, it comes in two flavors: a 32 gigabyte for 149 and a 64 gigabyte for 199. So we'll see how that goes. Also, the Surface 4 has been out for a little while, and there are lots of good reviews coming in saying that the Surface 4 can replace your laptop. However, there's also been a little bit of controversy. Microsoft, during their presentation of Surface Pro, the Surface Book, I should say, excuse me, they promoted that it's twice as fast as a 13-inch MacBook Pro, and they really went on and on about how much faster the Surface Book is than the MacBook Pro. But now the actual benchmarks have come out, and that's just not true. In fact, the MacBook Pro does beat the Surface Book in many benchmarks, and the test that Microsoft was using, they were not using comparables. So they were putting their Surface Book configuration against a base model 13-inch MacBook Pro. But once you match the prices and the configurations, the MacBook Pro still beats the Surface Book. So whether you're Windows or OS X, that's not the discussion. The discussion is really misleading marketing, and it was really unnecessary because the Surface Book is an amazing device, a technical marvel, and it's a really good thing for tech to see Microsoft throwing some skin in the game, making their own laptops now. But you shouldn't make hardware claims if you really can't back them up.
So what you're saying is that Microsoft used the same, basically, marketing department as Volkswagen. Yeah, the same testing department, evidently, with fake hardware. I'm guessing it's the same department.
No, it would be more comparable with Samsung.
Okay.
Yeah, who legendarily always totes how their Galaxy is so much faster than the iPhone and different things. And then when you do the actual benchmarks, and they actually got caught cheating once, that they had an actual program that when you were testing for benchmarks, it would inflate the numbers because you were benchmarking it versus real world use. So yeah, Volkswagen, since you did put the jab in there, Volkswagen was lying about emissions. I don't think you could compare. They didn't say, oh, we get better emissions than BMW. They just said we got clean emissions. The point is, yeah, the point is when you go and target another company, you should not be blatantly lying. And so Microsoft got caught out lying. So there it is.
Since we're talking about Volkswagen for just a hot second, I'm not the only person. Well, I know I'm a TDI driver. I know you're a TDI driver, Geekonius. What's the latest news on the class action lawsuits?
Nothing. I've heard absolutely nothing regarding any class action lawsuits, any plans. And it's funny you should mention that because I was just randomly thinking this as I was driving the other day. And I was saying to myself, I wonder if Volkswagen is doing the long game where they just assume that, the longer they take, the cries will die down and then they'll be able to just give us some little stupid, throw us a bone and sweep this under the rug. So
From what I read before, like they're talking about rolling out the fixes in like early 2016, basically like January on the TDIs.
well, see where I've been reading is they still haven't even determined what they're gonna do. The fix is a possible solution, but it's still a very expensive solution for them because speaking of Volkswagen, it looks like there's some news now that there might be even more cars affected by their cheating. And though I didn't go in depth into that research, my best guess is the 2015 models and even some 2016 because at the end of the day,
No, I
well,
think 2016 is affected, whereas before they were saying that they weren't. But it's
that's what I'm saying. So there's some rumors that they're even so even if they put a fix, it's a $2,000 fix per 11 million plus vehicles just in the U.S. alone. They've already practically been banned in like different European countries, and the dealers in America have been told not to sell any TDIs whatsoever. So again, the consumers, those of us who actually own TDIs, personally, it doesn't change how I feel about my car, but I am
for me, it
upset that my
does.
resale value is next to nothing now because if you people think of this in practical terms. If I were to get into a car accident tomorrow, God forbid, and I total my vehicle, if I don't have gap coverage, I personally have gap coverage, but a lot of people do not have gap coverage, and you're financing your vehicle, the thing that happens is the insurance company will cut you a check for the value of your car, the fair market value. If you're currently driving a Volkswagen TDI or a TDI of any brand, whether it's Audi, I don't know if they put it in the Porsches, but um, and you fall into that category of someone who owes 20, 30, 40, $50,000 on a TDI car, and then you total it and you don't have gap coverage, you're going to be in a world of hurt because the insurance company is going to say, look, the market value for this car is next to nothing, and you're still going to owe the whatever bank you finance through the remainder of that balance. And that's the part people don't think about. I just got a email last week from a local dealer who were letting me know that my black book is actually going down and that if I'm interested, I should come swing through and drop off that TDI and get something else while the getting is good. So, this detour about Volkswagen. So for people who just wondering, oh wow, it's just an emissions thing or the eco freaks are upset or people don't want their performance to change, there's a bigger picture to this, and all of those other things are still important because there are people who bought the TDI specifically because they felt like it was eco-friendly, and they were doing that. Personally, I got it for gas mileage, you know, and I don't mean to sound like that big fat pig guy from Captain Planet, but
August Greeley.
yeah. But a little nitrogen ain't never hurt nobody.
But no, one of the things too with the whole scandal, like one, I'm actually one of those people who bought the car because it was that happy compromise where I was able to get the same mileage as a hybrid, but not give up the performance because I didn't want to get a Prius. So I started looking at my options, and I know Geconius and I went back and forth for a long time because I was trying to settle on a car, and I didn't actually want to get the VW. But once sat down and looked at all the specs, looked at all the numbers, saw what it all looked like across the spectrum, it was the best option as far as fuel economy, eco-friendly, and performance. So now, like all of that is out the window. But what the whole VW scandal has done is especially in Europe, where diesels are a lot more prevalent than in the U.S., is they realize that their emissions are much higher than they originally thought across the board. So they're polluting more into the atmosphere than they thought. And so it's not just VW. VW is like the tip of the iceberg. They're going to be investigating a whole lot of other companies, see who else is cheating, because based on what the nitrogen and other pollutant outputs are in Europe, it's obvious that more than just VW is cheating right now.
Well, we shall see. It's still disappointing as a customer. Couple of more news items I wanted to add. So NASA is actually using the Allen Telescope Array, the ATA, which is like a huge system of radio dishes outside of San Francisco, and they are looking for alien life. They've always been looking, but now they're zooming in on one particular uh, system, one particular planet, because it was noticed that there is some kind of anomaly around this planet that isn't organic, or at least doesn't appear to be organic. It appears to be some kind of structure, something that was built, possibly some kind of space station or something. So they're zooming in on this and looking to see if we may be able to confirm some kind of alien life. So for those who are into science on that level, this is very interesting. That SETI is involved, the SETI Institute, and various others are honing in and wondering.
Would it be ill low if we found intelligent life in space and they was black? Because like anytime you watch like science fiction movies in the future and the aliens, they ain't never black. Like ain't no black people in the future. Like what happens if we actually meet
Look,
aliens and they black?
I'm gonna
Come on, don't act like you ain't think about that.
I'm gonna pass.
well, don't sit there.
Yeah, well, that conversation is probably actually going to come up.
Exactly.
Talk about Star Wars because it's going to come up. It's going to come up. Just hold that thought. It's coming back to you.
I'm just saying, I'm not the only one who thought that, and I know, Big Barbara Rob middle name might as well be militant, so I know he thought that.
Yeah,
This is Darth Geconia's ex, so I know he thought it too.
Hey.
Afronauts.
Oh hell, we played the Giants today.
Yeah. Yep.
I knew I shouldn't have took it. I knew I shouldn't have took an intermission to see what the score was.
Yeah, you should.
I should have known there was more into that jab in the pre-show.
How about them Cowboys?
I should have known there was an extra little something to that.
You should have known.
Yeah, I should have known. I'm gonna let it go for now. But also another trailer that I wanted to point out this week also was Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies, which is a good novel that was out a couple years ago. People thought it'd be stupid that they're making a movie of it, but it actually was a really good trailer if you check it out. And some gaming news, just got to throw it out there. Fallout's in a couple of weeks. And Assassin's Creed was released Friday as well, Assassin's Creed Syndicate, so check that out. And last but not least, if you have some pent-up emotions, you had some things on your mind, and you've been kind of storing it for a while, and you've been looking for a reason to let it all out, Adele has released a new album.
Oh.
Her new song, Hello, is out. So get those tears ready. Because, I will say with Adele, it's funny, I read a tweet the other day. Someone said they're not passing judgment until they meet the person who she keeps singing about. She said they want to hear his side of the story first before they pass judgment. It just since I mentioned gaming, I just want to put a shout out. Bison put it out there. Halo 5 and Call of Duty are also coming out soon. I didn't mention Halo because I'm going to be going bananas in a few days anyway. When
Speaking of Bison, I know Bison want to see some black aliens. I know that.
Oh, Bison's all for the black aliens. And that's all I got, Barbara Rob. It's back to you.
Yeah, and I want to throw in there about gaming also. I've actually already pre-purchased my copy of Just Cause 3. I can't believe I actually, because I got coupons for it, and so I was like, shoot, I'm gonna use these before they expire. So I've already got my copy of Just Cause 3. That's going to be awesome. But
Speaking
I'm
of movie
definitely
trailers, though,
These next 3 weeks is gonna be insane for gaming.
yeah, it is. It is.
I mean, you got Halo, Call of Duty,
Yeah,
a Battlefront, Assassin's Creed just came out,
yep.
Fallout. You just mentioned Just
Just
Cause.
Cause.
I
Yeah,
mean,
it's going to be bananas.
just those 6 games, and then first week of December, I think it's December 1st, is the Division from time. No, it's the Rainbow Six is coming out.
Yeah, yeah. I was say no. The division got pushed back a whole
Yeah,
lot.
Division got pushed. But yeah, so if you're into first-person shooters or any combination thereof, you need to either have some deep pockets or choose wisely. We should really actually put some recommendations out there, like what people should do based on their system. The only system I won't comment on, of course, is anything Sony. Just putting it out there.
I knew you were going to say that.
It is what it is. Look, I don't know anything about PlayStation 4 at all.
Understood. I I completely totally understand.
I know it's a light movie season up until Star Wars, but am I the only person who wants to see Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse?
I
Yes.
See
actually
that
got
trailer?
tickets to that. Actually, I'm going to go see it Tuesday.
You ain't call me and say nothing.
I just got the tickets like 2 hours ago. Actually,
Saying you text for anything else, you could be like, "Yo, bro, I got the tickets."
you want to go? You want to go Tuesday night?
Yes, yes. I can't go Tuesday night.
Oh, actually,
I
it's
want to
at
go.
Tyson's Corner, so you probably can't go anyway.
I can't go because my wife actually works late on Tuesday, so I'm with the kid. What time are the tickets for?
I don't know, probably like 7 o'clock. And speaking of which, and King Face isn't here yet, but we also just this past Thursday we saw the latest not Final Destination. It feels like Final Destination, but the latest Paranormal Activity. Of so if requested, I might give a mini review. Actually, I can give a review right now. It's in less than 160 characters.
Go ahead, knock it out. Go ahead. Let's start.
Mo-
Let's start off your roundtable with a review.
More the same. Nothing you haven't seen before. They did have some good jumpy parts. King Face a lot like a dog, but he was jumping. Everybody was jumping.
We all know
But
Face is going to lie. He's
it
the
jumped.
bravest
It,
person on
it
the
jumped the
planet. Let
shark.
him tell it.
It jumped the shark like all the previous ones. About 3/4 into the movie, and you just sat there yelling at the movie screen. And then it ended, and you said, "Okay, I hope this is the last one." Bam. There's your Paranormal Activity. So if you want to just go see something with some popcorn, and you get a good laugh, don't go unless the movie theater is packed, because it's not going to be fun. It's always fun hearing other people scream and say stupid stuff. And if you're a youngin' and you got your little girlfriend or whatever, definitely go see it.
Oh,
It's one of those.
That's your opinion, Max.
wow.
Look, you had grown men up in there jumping.
Wow.
They went there in some parts, but it was good, decent
Uh,
anyway.
that's good. Let's talk about the Jessica Jones trailer. Man, it's it goes along the lines of Daredevil, where they're definitely going dark, definitely going violent, definitely going adult. I mean, and just it was really, really, really impressive. We are hitting into such an incredible era of superhero content, whether it's movies or television. I did not expect it to be. I should have expected it to be that raw, but I didn't. I really didn't know what to expect. Geekonis, what were your thoughts on Jessica?
I was really excited because my comic thing is completely old, and I don't know much about the character. I haven't done any research other than I know she's a superhero who's not doing superhero stuff anymore. And of course, I know about Luke Cage, so it was cool seeing Luke Cage because I forget the actor name who plays him. He also is in Halo as well, so that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's Mike Coulter.
Yeah, he plays Commander Locke, one of the Spartans in the new Halo series. He was on the Halo series for the Xbox, and he's also in the video game. Um, it really, really impressive because the bar is so high now based on what we got from Daredevil, and I don't really care what anybody say. Daredevil is the standard at this point when it comes to superheroes on television. And I'm current with every show: Gotham, Flash, Arrow, Agents of Shield. I've seen the pilot, unfortunately, for Supergirl. um, and I'm just saying that Daredevil is here. From what I've seen in Jessica Jones thus far, not knowing much of anything about the character, just in the trailer and the teaser alone, I think this may actually eclipse Daredevil, which is cool because then season 2 of Daredevil is coming out, and they're gonna have a Punisher, or as I'm saying, Shane with a skull T-shirt on,
Wow.
which also works out because Shane and Frank Castle seem to have a lot in common.
Wow. Yeah, I think also this speaks to what we kind of said with it being on Netflix. Netflix ability to kind of push beyond that prime time barrier of content. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we saw what they did with Daredevil, and we like, yes, you. I mean, because it had to be really raw. I mean, although you know, and it was great because it was so balanced because he got his butt whooped every other show. I mean, he was getting tore up, and it was way more natural. I mean, the violence was, you know, they didn't have to cut away, and they didn't have to, you know. Yet again, Netflix shows what they could provide as a studio.
And you know that.
Netflix is the future. Like when you start to like like really look at content, you had folks are kind of iffy in the beginning, and then it's like really starting to see the light as far as like you know content producers outside of the major production houses. I mean, Amazon has made some mistakes, but they're starting to pick some things up. Hulu, the same thing. I mean, I think once Hulu figures out their model, like who they want to be, I think they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. And then you got Netflix, and Netflix is in a position where they can really really go there with the content. Like, you take Daredevil and what they were able to do with it. I mean, Daredevil is a dark character. It's a dark story. It's got a very dark gritty feel to it, and they were able to invoke that on multiple levels without being gratuitous with sex or violence. But they were able to do some incredible storytelling, and their visualization, how they crafted the world and how they crafted Hell's Kitchen is impeccable, and it looks like they're carrying that over with Jessica Jones on multiple levels. I mean, based on canon, it appears to be really really on point and thorough in that regard, and kind of how they have depicted Jessica Jones as being both strong and fragile at the same time. Her relationship with Luke Cage, like right now, looks like they're deviating a little bit as far as like them not starting off being married, but they are married in the comics, so looking forward to their relationship, and how that expands. Kilgrave, and I'm used to David Tennant. Anybody who's into Doctor Who knows David Tennant played Doctor Who for several seasons. He was great in that role, but to see him, and he usually plays good guys, but to see him play a bad guy as Kilgrave is a great thing to see. This kind of different play on familiar faces as different characters. So I'm really excited about Jessica Jones.
You know,
Looks like they got a
I wanted
power
to
brother.
add that this will be an interesting test for Netflix and Marvel because with Daredevil, with his power set, Rob mentioned how he was getting his butt kicked every week. He was basically kick ass with a little bit more powers and a little bit more skill. But Jessica Jones is going to be their first like legit, super powered individual. And the thing is that most of the time when it's kind of like what's happening with the CW. You had Arrow and you was able to do what was considered gritty for a prime time, but once you threw in the Flash, you started getting into this metahuman thing, and people were wondering how are they still going to bring the character down to earth and make it not too cheesy because superheroes on TV, it's just still hasn't been done to that level yet where we could be like, wow, that's awesome. So now when you're throwing in this character Jessica Jones, we already see the super strength and different things. I don't know what her power set is. Potbelly, you can give us more insight into that. But if they pull this off, I think this will help the studios decide what type of characters and what characters to bring next. Because right now, between now and I think 2020, Marvel has 16 films planned. People don't realize how many superhero films are out there. We have almost 16 in Marvel, and I would say probably a dozen in DC, somewhere around there. But the TV thing is less costly, and the way Netflix is going, they're now buying rights to start showing movies earlier and earlier. Like they'll be showing Star Wars, like I think it's 6 to 8 months after it's released. So it's kind of like we could go into an era where the movies become somewhat obsolete. So we'll
Well,
see.
let me ask a quick question about that because I want to tie some what you just said in and kind of this conversation with a comment you made earlier. So I have not watched the Supergirl pilot. You said that you have. Would you say so based upon
Watch
what?
the screen right here. 2 thumbs down.
so so let me
For the pilot.
hypothetically speaking, should they or could they have done Supergirl better if they'd gone to a platform like Netflix or Amazon or Hulu? If they
Nope.
got it off of Prime, no, is the storyline still?
No, I'm,
Let
I'm
me
gonna
out
tell you.
there.
I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna tell you why. And this is where we really need Kingface because he has like he loathed the whole Kal-El and Superman thing. The thing is that Supergirl, just like Superman, is so above the cuff. It's kind of like there's no real way to bring them down enough to relate to the character and it not being cheesy. Like even if you did Superman, unless you do some spin to it, like they did with Lois and Clark, or what they did for Smallville until it jumped the shark. You know, it,
Until he
it,
did jump the shark.
it's like you can't really take a character like that. Like I think Jessica Jones will work because she's already down to earth, who just happens to have these powers. Whereas their whole facade is they're basically a god that we're trying to relate to. And I don't and then their villains kind of suck. They don't have those great villains. I think for me, and this is why I'm more of a Marvel than a DC fan. I think that's the one thing that Marvel has always been good at for the most part. They have some compelling villains that's more relatable that you can see. It's more realistic, and it balances the scale. Some people like Duke CT is saying he saw the pilot and he loved it. To each his own. I my thing with Supergirl is I hope it gets better. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, if I had to judge Agents of Shield based on the pilot, I would never watch the show. But now I'm watching it every week because Agents of Shield is leaps and bounds better than it was when the pilot was aired. I mean, you can't even measure. It's like two different shows right now. But what I saw so far, if that's the path they're going down, HBO couldn't help it, Netflix couldn't help it. Um, it's yeah.
I want to read some comments from Twitter. We have I'm gonna call him a new user because he's new to us or she's new to us. RCR reviews from Twitter said that Daredevil was great because as a show it was movie quality on all levels in the best way. The fighting, acting, drama, suspense, and the characters in Daredevil were all rich. They all were 3D. The
Absolutely.
show did well, keeping them as humans, best villains too. Very, great points. Which is, you're right. That's why shows like Daredevil and shows like Jessica Jones, they're gonna get the viewership. And Netflix is also. We did an article last week talking about how Netflix is also picking up. They're picking up new subscribers. They didn't get as many as they like, but in my mind, I'm like, you got market saturation. I mean, you only got so many more people who don't have Netflix. So your numbers are gonna start to table out here at some point anyway. But you're right, and I think it's that depthness, that richness that Daredevil brought that Jessica Jones is also going to bring. That I think is going to have an absolutely huge, huge, huge following going forward. So yeah,
That was the thing about Daredevil, is like Daredevil was made believable. Like he was humanized to an extent. Like Daredevil's biggest abilities is that like he lost his sight due to the chemical accident, kind of the car accident, whatever. But all of his other senses are like super, 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 super heightened.
hmm
But they didn't give him the extra physical strength. They gave him everything else to compensate for it. In addition, like he's a master martial artist. Well, but what they did with the show is they showed his evolution. So he's still trying to figure things out. So be like he's really good at some things, but he's still not good at others. And like those ass whoopings that he took, 'cause he took quite a few of them.
he
Like,
took quite a few.
it's part of his evolution and part of his journey, and it made him more of a relatable character, and it put him in a position where he connected, more, with the audience. He was like the neighborhood superhero as opposed to Superman. You know what I mean? Like everybody could get behind. Like people started to um, rally behind Daredevil as a character, and I think you're going to start to see some of that with Jessica Jones as well, because Jessica Jones is, her abilities are, she's got super strength. They've, according to kind of like comic book canon, like they've never really tested like the upper limits of her strength, but they're like, she can at least lift 2 tons, so she can lift the car like at minimum, but they never really put it to the test, fully. Like now that she has a show, they're probably going to test that out a little bit more. Also, she's she has some invulnerability, like, but that's never really been fully tested out either. Like, she might bluff, like if you shoot her, it's not gonna hurt, or she not gonna die, but she doesn't actually, know. But she does heal kind of fast from, taking a beating. Um, and what else? She can fly, but her ability to fly is kind of iffy, because when she left the Avengers and kind of like stepped out on her own to be a PI, she stopped flying. So it's kind of like her ability to fly kind of went downhill. So she's gonna be, what I'm seeing like right now as this process. Like I think that they're gonna do similar to what they did with um with Daredevil, is show kind of her going through this transition, this evolution, as she figures out who she's going to be in light of her traumatic past, and in light of what the future is potentially going to look like, which should make for like really good writing and really good TV. Like I think Netflix, they doing their thing right now, and I think they've got probably some of the best writers in the industry working for them on some of these shows. I feel like Netflix is, kind of where HBO was when they broke ground with shows like The Sopranos.
Yeah, so very, very true. I want to read one of our folks on YouTube, and we got a lot of folks in the chat room. For those who are following along, we've got Bison and Geek Soul Brother Duke CT, all in the YouTube chat. But Bison makes a statement that Jessica Jones could be a gamble because it's a female lead, and this is new territory in the superhero TV shows. I think yes and no to that. Personally, overall, I don't think it's a gamble from the standpoint that Daredevil has kind of set the style of the show. And so I think they're going with a very similar dark style that I think people are going to go to. And I hear what you're saying about it being a female lead, but as we've
part of his comment.
oh, also she's bringing back. She also okay. I can't. I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna read that on the air, Bison. Woo, boy! I almost read that one.
Okay, she's also
with a
relationship with a black guy. How about
yeah, okay. Yes, you're absolutely right. There could be some blowback from that, but I think they have to push that. I think that if you look at what the trend has been,
but that's true to the comic book though. That's canon.
No, but I think Bison's speaking to a larger point, and I don't necessarily think that's the issue it used to be. Personally, I think this younger generation, and I'll give you a case in point. I watched the Adele video today for that new song. And I don't watch videos, but I was on YouTube and I saw it and I said, oh, okay, I'll watch it. So I wanted to really hear the song everybody was talking about. And in the video, it was about her breaking up with a black dude. And I'll say to myself, it's so commonplace now. I can't even imagine um, the whole idea of the white girl with the black guy would cause any friction on Netflix outside of the same circles, which are becoming more like
More and more fringe.
yeah, if we transition to our next topic. But before we do that, and I don't want to feel like I'm dominating. I think we have to talk about it because all of Twitter is still talking about it. The Walking Dead episode tonight. Woo! They sort of kind of killed Glenn tonight. For those who haven't seen it, I guess I'm spoiling it. Uh,
Couldn't you have said that before? When you
I
Oh,
guess
you
I was
did.
supposed to say spoilers first or
yeah,
whatever.
I
But
was like, is he gonna say he's about the spoilers? Cause you kind of prepped us with a tweet, and I was like, oh, is he gonna tell people he's about the?
well, it's done. Glenn is dead.
That's no
Maybe
surprise.
Glenn is dead. No, it is surprise, and I'll tell you why. And I'm gonna put all the cards on the table because I already messed up and did it on Twitter anyway, so it's done. Um,
But
in
this
issue
is
100,
YouTube.
in issue 100 of the comic book, Glenn is killed. It was a. I'm not going to say what the circumstances were per se, because then that would be spoiling some potential plot points for the show. But those of us who read the comic, we all knew Glenn would eventually get killed, and I was personally sitting back waiting for my red wedding moment because the way he went, it was kind of like a slow build to a oh my god situation. But tonight it was kind of crazy because he got surrounded by walkers with the guy Nicholas that no one likes. Nicholas started spazzing out. They were on top of a trash can. Nicholas finally just took out a gun and shot himself in the head because he couldn't take it no more. He fell on Glenn and they fell into a crowd, a sea of walkers. And all you see is guts ripping out and Glenn screaming. And all of Twitter was just like, "Oh my God, Glenn is dead." So then I got a chance to watch a little bit of Talking Dead before this show, and every week on the Talking Dead they do a in memoriam segment where they talk about everybody who died that episode, zombie or otherwise. They have funny nicknames for the zombies, and they got to Nicholas. They always do it in the order of death, and they got to Nicholas, but then there was no Glenn. In fact, it said something about it can't be, it can't be, it can't be. And then that was it. And then it was so crazy that even the producer of the shows, Gimbal and them, they actually had a letter that they had Chris Hardwick read to the fans, which basically said that Glenn, what they say, something along the lines of that Glenn would return in some form. And then he got real vague, saying in some form, maybe a body part, maybe a flashback, but in some form.
This is gonna come back as a body part. What?
Well,
What?
oftentimes what they'll do is the beginning of the next episode, you might see the aftermath. Maybe the zombies have walked away, and you see like his flesh, or he's a zombie, or something like that. But so I don't know. But Twitter is all freaking out because they think Glenn is dead. I surely think he's dead. And some of us who've read the comic, we were debating on Twitter earlier about what this means for the future storyline. Um, because if you read the comics, they're covering between issues 80 and 90 right now. So for those of you out there who are still thinking about reading the comic and you don't feel like reading all the issues, but you want to be caught up, if you start around issue 78 to 80, you should be able to follow the show from this point forward. But Glenn's death is in issue 100, and there's still some major plot things. So it's really a shock because a lot of people have been following Glenn, and it's right up there with some of the other character deaths, like Tyrese or the other black guy. I can't even remember his name.
T-Dog.
Oh yeah, T-Dog. I don't know. He was shocked.
Yeah, Resident
Merle
Evil.
getting killed was shocking for me. But yeah, so I felt like I had to say a little bit of something about that because as someone who thought they knew what was going to happen, and Robert Kirkman promised that this season they would get closer to the comic books again, I was completely stunned. And of course, there was more, but we're not going to talk about The Walking Dead in full. I just felt like we had to address the Glenn thing. Uh, so I do think that if Glenn survives this somehow, that it's going to be stupid because if you see that scene, they fell into a sea of at least 100 walkers, at least in an alleyway, completely filled with walkers. And some are floating this theory that Nicholas fell on top of him. So when we see the guts being ripped out and the blood, it's really Nicholas being eaten. And as we know from the older episodes, if you get that on you, I guess they can't smell you, but you have to be a zombie. So I don't know how they're going to play that off. But if Glenn somehow survives it, I know I'm going to be pissed.
I understand.
I didn't want him to die, but I'm saying if he's going to fall into a sea of zombies and we see somebody get ripped apart, the logical conclusion is that he got ripped apart too. And if they don't do that, then they're just being real stupid.
Right. I got you. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because that was definitely a major internet issue. It's definitely on social media today. So maybe next week we'll talk a little bit more about it because we should be getting close to the mid-season.
Yes. Next week's episode is actually 90 minutes.
Okay.
So so there's fair warning that I'm
so
not
you're gonna be late.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks. That tells me to get the news ready for next week. Okay. Got it. Appreciate that. All right. So let's we got we're within our 15-minute mark, but we obviously we aren't restricted to a full an hour, but we do try to be thoughtful of people's time. Let's talk about the Force Unleashed trailer, and then kind of segue that into the hashtag. So the Force Unleashed trailer dropped during. Was that Sunday Night Football or Monday night?
Monday Night Football.
It dropped during. It was. First of all, let me say, as one who was watching the game, it was just really awesome to look at the tweets from Black Twitter of people saying, "Congratulations, you got me to actually watch a football game on Monday night." I thought that was absolutely hilarious. But I think everyone kind of sat around. We were waiting for it to happen, and it happened, and definitely didn't disappoint. I don't know if I won't. I don't think I was terribly shocked by anything except for maybe the revelation that the fallen stormtrooper is now the Great Black Hope. I guess I should say.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. Okay, that's true. Not necessarily. But I'm just saying how the video kind of played out. Again, it just really cemented that this is going to be the movie. That just looking at the graphics, looking at the action, this movie is.
And George Lucas doesn't have his hand in the pot. That's a big deal.
So I'll start with Potbelly because I know that Darky Cohen is going to have his comments on it. Potbelly, I know you saw the trailer, didn't you?
I did see the trailer.
Any other
tickets?
That's right, and we have our tickets. Any thoughts for you on the trailer? You felt you learned more? How did you, did it just really cement that you want to see this movie?
Honestly, it did make me want to see the movie, but I've wanted to see the movie since, a long while now. But I'm going to do something that I never do. I'm actually going to defer to Geekonius on this one, only because our resident Sith in training, the Emperor Butt Scratcher.
I'm a
full-fledged lord.
I'm a full Darth. What are you talking about?
A full-fledged lord now.
In training, I'm gonna defer to him because he has the most knowledge of the Star Wars universe and canon, both old and new. So I'm going to defer to my Sithy brother.
So, Darky Conius, what did you think of the trailer?
I'm sorry, I just read Bize's comment. He's upset that we got tickets. Look, it was no easy feat. I'm gonna tell you. Fandango was like, I got in right when the website was like staticky, like reaching capacity, and I somehow was able to get tickets and reserve like the entire row for that theater. Um, so we got lucky because after that, I tried to go back and get more tickets, and there was just no getting on the website.
Don't we have at least one extra? I mean, we might be able to work something out for Bison for the right
Yeah,
price.
Bison, would you hit us up? You might have a ticket after all if
You
you try.
actually may have a ticket. You
Yeah,
may have a ticket.
you may if you hit us up, you might have a ticket. So anyway, it, wow, the trailer. I've kind of been in the whole galaxy far away. I've been getting ready for the movie. I've actually, as of yesterday, I have completely read every Star Wars novel that is considered canon now, and I'm caught up on most of the comic books in Star Wars Rebels. And the reason why this is important, in conjunction with the discussion of this trailer, if for those of you who might have been following the show a year ago or so, let's say, when Disney announced that part of their acquisition of Lucasfilm and the whole thing was that they were throwing out all the novels. They were saying none of that stuff was canon, and that they were going to start over basically, and they were going to have their lore masters decide what canon is. And a lot of people who have been reading these books and different storylines for 20 some odd years were miffed about that the expanded universe is no longer considered canon. It's now considered legends. Couldn't really get it. But what they did, it was almost like what they do with Marvel. How Marvel have a shared universe between the cinematic universe and the television universe and everything in between. So they did the same thing with Star Wars. So now all the novels, all the comics, all the TV shows, anything that Star Wars, including the original 6 movies, are all part of this one narrative. This comes into play because I've been reading all the novels, and each one of the novels allude to the story that's going to be told in The Force Awakens, which is really good. And so there's some really great things being hinted out. So when I saw the trailer, I actually was looking at it from a different perspective. I was trying to look at it and see what are they hinting to that was already revealed in the novels. What are they not hinting to? Because the novels do just enough to get you right past the Emperor and Vader dying, um, to maybe about a few years after that. And then at the end of the most current book, um, there's some hidden presence on a destroyer ship, and they cut the epilogue right there, right when one of the main characters of that book address whoever that is. So I don't know if that's Kylo Ren, if that's one of these new Moths or whatever, but we don't know what's going on with Luke Skywalker at all. So we got some really interesting things going on here in that trailer, which is why when we brought up the stormtrooper thing, and I think this is an interesting point to get
Tony,
into
what's a
this right
moth?
now, Rob. About Yeah, go ahead, Rob.
What's a moth?
A moth is in the Empire. A moth is like one of the highest titles you could have. You're basically like a provincial or regional governor. It's basically like the Palpatine would give you a certain sector of the galaxy that you're in charge of. So everybody is below you. But the Grand Moff is in charge of all the Moffs. So he's basically third in command. So there was, the Emperor, Vader, and then the Moffs. And the first time he created the title Grand Moff was with Tarkin, who came up with the idea of the Death Star. But he, of course, died in the first trilogy. So there's something going on. In the lead up to this movie, The Force Awakens, there's a novel called, I just read it, Star Wars Awakening. And it takes place after, Return of the Jedi. And basically, we've never been thrown into this unless you read into the expanded universe. But essentially, what happened was the Empire was a government that had this central leadership, but they were gigantic all over the star system. So once the Emperor and Vader dies, the Empire doesn't just fall apart. Some of it did. People defected, some joined rebels. But what ended up happening is you now have all these different admirals and moffs. You got, people who are captains of star destroyers who are all now making power plays. So this particular book, they try to hold a special meeting of like the six people and the most powerful people left in the empire, and they're trying to figure out what they're going to do. Meanwhile, the New Republic, because they're no longer the Rebel Alliance anymore, they're all like, circling the laps and celebrating. They're setting up senators and stuff again. And so you're basically in this situation where everything is uncertain. No one knows where the empire is at, what they're up to, but the wars are still going on. They're still fighting. There's still skirmishes, but the heart is not there. The empire isn't in it. So, like, if the Republic comes across, TIE fighters or a starship, they're not getting the same level of fight. A lot of times they're running and just like licking their wounds because there's uncertainty. There's a lot going on, but I wanted to segue into something that Rob definitely wanted to bring up. This whole racial thing that came up about the race of the stormtroopers, and this is why it becomes important. If you only seen the movies and you're just like, oh, there's no such thing as a black stormtrooper, you obviously don't know what's going on. The original stormtroopers weren't stormtroopers; they were clone troopers. These were your original clones that fought in the Clone Wars. When they became the Empire, they had lost so much of their military that they actually created academies and started getting enlisting troops to become stormtroopers and different types of stormtroopers, just like the regular military. So all races in the galaxy are stormtroopers, with the exception of some of the alien races. The Empire was very uh, racist, if you will, against aliens. So most of the Empire are human. So they're either, in fact, one of the most powerful admirals, whose story actually starts before the Republic falls. She's a young lieutenant. By the end of the Empire falling, she's one of the most powerful admirals and had one of the last remaining super star destroyers. She's a black woman. So if they show her in the movies, if you think people went crazy about the black stormtrooper, they're gonna really lose their crap, when they find out one of the most powerful people in the empire is a black woman. So there's a lot there, and I wanted to segue into that because people don't know there's a huge story behind just lightsabers and stuff flying around, and there are no real Jedi. People think the Force is a myth. That's another thing people don't know. Um, we look at it as everybody must know about the Force and everybody must know about the Jedi. That's not true. One of the things when they killed all the Jedi and hunted them down, they expunged all the records. They destroyed all the temples. Um, and people think of the Force as this ancient religion that's a myth. So no one even knows. So when they say Force Awakens, even that title has some clues to what this movie might be about. And I have my own theories, but I'm not gonna throw those out there. But I think Luke is up to some stuff.
Interesting. Oh, so this is maybe more about Luke. Interesting.
But not
Negative
about
stuff
Luke.
or positive stuff.
There's two prevailing theories out there right now. One of them is that Luke may very well have fallen to the dark side. Um, it's very possible. Some people say it's not possible, but it's very possible. Yoda did not want to train him on Dagobah because the same reason why they didn't want to train Anakin. You got to remember, Anakin was past the age as well. He was like 12 at the time, but Luke was in his late teens when he even had got any knowledge of what the Force was or whatever. So part of dealing with the chaos of the New Republic and the rebuilding and the loss, and in one of the scenes, they show what appears to be Kylo Ren that looks like he's doing something to a guy who's in a lot of pain, maybe a force choke or something like that. And the guy, if he's who I think he is, he might be Luke's best friend, Wedge Antilles, um, from the squadron, the Rebel Squadron days. So there's a lot that could put Luke to the dark side. The other theory is that he's somewhere trying to restart the Jedi Order. There may very well be some Jedi who we thought were extinct and thought were dead may have been in hiding, just like Yoda was in hiding, just like Obi-Wan was in hiding. Like right now, for instance, in Star Wars Rebels, the animated show, Ahsoka is alive. She's older. She's older, obviously, and Darth Vader just found out that she's still alive. In like the first episode of second season. There's also Kanan. He's also a Jedi. He was actually a Padawan when the Empire, when the Jedi Order was destroyed, and he's now training a young guy to be a Jedi. And I still feel in my heart of hearts, if the writers or the lore masters want to do it, I think Mace might even be out there.
Yes.
That's throwing it out on a limb, but if he shows up, you heard it here first. I have a really good theory as to how that could be possible,
I need
and
to
what
hear that
and
theory
what
because
and,
Mace would
and
be
what Mace
10 years
could be
old.
up to. So
Mace would be like 100 though.
no, the time frame has only from the time of the fall of the Republic and the rise of the Empire to the fall of the Empire. It's barely been 30 years,
So that would make Mace what, 70?
maybe. But we don't really know for sure how old he was when he was, a Jedi Master either.
And just a question, because looking at Yoda, and granted, we don't understand, or I don't know. I should guess say I don't understand. I don't know if it has. I don't even know if it has anything to do with Yoda's physiology. But does the Force does it, can the Force actually extend life? I mean, can, like, in other words, it's basically dog years. You may be
No.
70, but okay. I was just
No,
curious.
I'll put it this way. There's been no evidence of that thus far. There's certain species that just live longer, like Wookiees, or they live
Right.
several centuries, for instance. Um, but Duke CT said, uh,
No.
Duke CT said, "Let it go, Mason."
No, we're not letting it go.
I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you why I'm not letting it go. There's rumors that Boba Fett somehow survived the Sarlacc. We saw in the Clone Wars, that that Darth Maul survived after being cut in half and falling down a shaft. Only thing that happened to Mace was he lost an arm and got knocked out the window on Coruscant.
Yep.
He was what people don't know about Mace. Mace was not only a Jedi Master, but he was the only Jedi Master who had mastered all the lightsaber forms. He was also had his own form that he created that let him be on the edge of the dark side as well. And every one of his apprentices that he tried to train, they all fell to the dark side because they couldn't find that balance between light and dark. So one of my potential theories is that Mace is, he could have easily survived that with his powers and his skill sets. Falling down in Coruscant somewhere, he could have fell onto a ship, a flying ship. He could have caught onto something. He was not dead when he was struck by Force lightning. The thing you have to remember, Mace was seen to be the only other person except Yoda to actually fight back the Force lightning. If you remember, Yoda caught it in his hand like it was nothing, of course. And Mace was keeping it at bay with the lightsaber. It wasn't until Anakin cut his hand off that he got struck by the lightning, which pushed him, out. But he still was he wasn't dead. It takes more than what happened to him to kill someone by of his power anyway. So it could be possible if they wanted to write him in, and it would make sense why he's in hiding. They put out the message for everybody to go in hiding. Um, uh, Qui-Gon, he actually taught them how to be one with the Force. So you got Obi-Wan out there and Yoda out there in spirit form, and now we got Luke off doing whatever Luke is doing, which I think is probably trying to restart the Jedi Order. I guess the main point I'm trying to make is that what we think we know from the movies isn't necessarily true once you get into the novels and the comic books. There's so much more to the story. Like we just found out that in the comic books that Han Solo had a wife, for instance, a black woman, coincidentally, that he was running from as he was chasing down Princess Leia, excuse me. And there's so much going on there. You know, no, getting hit by Force Lightning by Sith Lord is not going to burn you to a crisp. I'm telling you, Dookie, I'm telling you what I know. Um, Count Dooku, for instance, attacked somebody that in one of the books, and he was literally lighting. He was trying to light his ass up, and Asajj Ventress jumped in front of him because she was in love with him, and it took a lot for Asajj Ventress to go down from both hands, Force Lightning. So and just to address Bias real quick, the black admiral, she's not a moth. She's an admiral. Her name is Admiral Sloan. So if you want to look up her story, you can find out about Admiral Sloan. Um, but that's all I'm gonna say on this. I mean, there's so much. I literally for the last like 2 months, everything. Well, actually 3 months. Everything Star Wars. I've been reading it. That's all I've been doing. And I literally just finished the last novel, and couple of the novels actually talk about Han Solo as he's older, him and Chewbacca, as well as Princess Leia. So I kind of already got an idea of what the universe is, but we'll see in the Force Awakens. I really think what's happening is that the intent of the movie is to show that because everyone thinks there's no such, like there were people in the Empire that didn't even know, they didn't know at all. The only people that knew that Palpatine was could use the Force at all was Vader and his royal guard. That's it. So, and people didn't know what Vader was. They just thought he was half man. They didn't know what he was, but they said, "Oh, he used an old Jedi weapon." So you got to remember, in this universe, there is no Force. Even the rebels, they used to joke about, "Oh, Skywalker, he's flying, and we heard he can do amazing things," and people be laughing in the squadron like, "Oh, it's just luck." So no one except eyewitnesses, and remember Han Solo used to joke about it. I don't believe in the Force, kid. And so when you see in the trailer when he says it's all true, that's only after him been there, done that, seen every little thing. Then he finally admits, okay, there must be a Force. But the majority of this world has no inkling about the Force, no knowledge of the Force. The Sith were only in pairs, and both of them were dead, and the Jedi was all but extinct. So we're coming into a world where it's like, okay, so where's the Force? And my thinking about who has it and who doesn't, I think the not Finn. What's the female's name in the movie? I forget her name on top of my head. I think she's the one that's going to have the Force, and what we actually saw in the trailer may be him picking up the lightsaber or something to defend her or something. Or they could both have it, but I believe she's actually either Leia's daughter or
But
she's
that's gonna
somebody.
be
She's
difficult.
definitely a Skywalker.
If he doesn't have Force abilities, the lightsaber wouldn't work for him at all.
Yes, it will. You
You
got to
really
remember,
believe
like
that?
for instance, General Grievous. How many lightsabers did he have?
Four.
uh, the
Grievous had
light,
four.
yeah, the lightsaber is just a weapon. If you don't have force power, you can't build a lightsaber because you need the force to be able to build a lightsaber.
I
But if I
thought you
just
needed
saw a
the weapon to
lightsaber
be
laid
able
on the
to
ground,
use
I could
one.
pick it up and push the button and use it.
Hmm. Didn't know that.
Hmm.
I won't be able to deflect, bolts and stuff like that, because I'm not going to be that fast. I'm not going to be able to sense things coming. But it's just a laser sword for all intents and purposes.
So let me expand the conversation. We kind of talked about it earlier. I want to talk a little bit about the hashtag, and I'm referring to it as a hashtag because I don't want to give it any more life than it's already had. Where kind of like the let's say for all intents and purposes, it was racist. Just people boycotting. And because you may have a better understanding, but in my understanding was that people were quite upset that here we had a brother of color wielding a lightsaber potentially as the next Jedi hero. And everyone, just not everyone, but certain internet trolls, they just went up on, well, they were just very upset by this concept. Like you said, they really don't understand the canon. But what I also found very, very short-sighted and very foolish about the whole piece was that the Star Wars universe is so huge. And so when we talk about, probably kind of mentioned earlier, wouldn't it be something that we found black aliens? Well, technically, they're green aliens and blue and yellow, and there are hairy aliens and bald aliens. I mean, so why there? I mean, come on now. How many different species are Jedi? How many different species are Sith? I mean, so the fact that these, and that's when they can't. Is it really the fans? It can't really be the fans, or is it just the purists that like, oh, you can't be. Come on now. I mean, anybody that watches that follows this movie, that follows this series, just this universe. I mean, there are people and entities and creatures from all different walks of life. It's like the doggone Green Lantern Corps. I mean, they're from everywhere. So the fact that you got upset that a brother's with a little lightsaber is just. It's completely foolish. And one thing that I love when I started seeing this is that you saw such a diverse response, especially through social media, that some tried to educate, some kind of put it off, and then there was some, of course, we can always count on certain elements of Twitter just to completely ignore what was going on and say, hey, you want to boycott it? Cool, that means I get a seat. No problem. You just go ahead and stay home. And you want to be ignorant, go ahead and stay home and be ignorant. But I mean, it was incredible just to see. I thought I just saw such a diverse response to what a lot of just more social media racism, that you're just afraid that the concept of the white hero was being yet again torn apart. Like Eternia said, it may not actually be him. But with my understanding, like I said, of the hashtag and Eternia, you kind of mentioned something earlier. Was it really just that? Was it that they presented a non-white Jedi possible hero for the movie?
As I understand it, but I mean that's the only thing it could have been, because if you look at the trailers, nearly all the trailers, he got a lot of the focus and a lot of the time, and the only person with a lightsaber that's even remotely not Sith was the one was the black guy. So, and I remember when they first showed one of the original teasers, a lot of the drama started just seeing him as a stormtrooper, because they were like, I remember seeing some of well before this hashtag, there ain't no such thing as a black stormtrooper, and I was kind of like narrowing my eyes, like, okay, this is where you're going to distinguish from the people who just think they know something about the universe, and then those who actually do. Um, but I think it was because you think stormtroopers, you think, oh, those are the badasses of this story on the bad side, and then the Jedi are the good people, and you say to yourself, how could you forget? I don't think it was, again, I don't think it was about just generally black people there, because we already had, of course, Mace Windu. We've already had Lando Calrissian, who's actually still around, by the way. So he needs to be in this movie, or at least the next one. Um, there's, of course, Darth Vader is done by James Earl Jones. So there's been other just black people walking around. I won't claim that thing in the first movie, but you know what they were doing. That was like Transformers 2.
Wow.
Wow.
The original stormtroopers, like the original clone troopers, they were Maori.
Yeah, and then there's that. The clones weren't even white. So it's just racist being racist. They were trying to equate this to the same thing they do when you see it in the superhero films, where they change the color of characters, like the same drama behind that terrible Fantastic Four movie. the racists, they're racist. They're going to come out and they're going to do this stuff, and they're always going to feel like, oh, the industry is against them and the white man is under attack or whatever goes on in their sick minds. But
But you know what though?
the fans, of course, you know, they got blasted. They became a mockery on the internet, and just the fact that the damn websites almost blew up for people trying to get tickets, we see how well their boycott went.
And that's what I was. That's my point. Like, those kind of elements, the traction that they picked up as far as support. You're talking about the Twitterverse. Twitterverse has got millions upon millions of people. They got like 7,000 the people who supported, quote unquote, supported their boycott, and that was it. So like those kind of individuals and the hatred that they're spewing is really becoming more and more of a fringe. It's getting pushed more and more to the outskirts where people with those kind of views are becoming less and less relevant.
And I think another reason why the hashtag was so popular, because a lot of internet was trolling them too. A lot of it was making fun of, like, oh god, look at these idiots. Because it's like, when you get on the whole idea of prejudice and racism and stuff, you find out that a lot of times, depending on what is said, you don't get people to speak out. But when you get so ridiculous to where you're like, oh my God, this movie, Star Wars anti-white, you get piled on. It's almost as crazy as saying something like the Palestinians are responsible for the Holocaust and stuff. Gave Hitler the idea. When you say stuff that crazy, people just go like, okay, now you really went retarded. And I think that's what happened here. Star Wars, they did a Netanyahu. That's what I'm gonna start calling it. That's what I'm gonna start. That's what I'm gonna
Did you
start
really
calling.
do that?
Yes, that's what I'm gonna do
Wow.
from now on.
Wow.
When someone says something so above the cuff that it's just so ridiculous that you can't even respond like negatively to their craziness, I'm gonna call it doing a Netanyahu from now on, because that's how crazy it was. It was just like, did you really just say that? And that's what happened with this movie, because people don't look at Star Wars like that. At least I never did. And we'll critique Hollywood to death when it comes to diversity, but I never actually looked at Star Wars. I mean, even if you look at the original ones, you still had James Earl Jones doing the voice of Darth Vader. You still had Lando. Of course, he didn't have like a major screen time, but he's a major part of the story. And so he sold Han out, and he redeemed himself and helped take out the second Death Star, which is how the war ended, or semi-ended, if you will. So it's like, I don't know these people. They're just
Hey,
crazy.
I got a crazy thought, and probably if you want to respond to him, you can. But I want to throw out just a crazy thought, something you just said, and something we talked about earlier. I wonder, could they do like a Lando miniseries on Netflix to go like, just and to go, because I don't think a Lando movie would make it. But like if they did like a Lando miniseries, like maybe 6 episodes, it like showed what happened, before Cloud City. How did he come to what his time with Chewie in the Falcon? Yo, that would be hot. That would be really, really cool.
And it would work. He has a comic book out now. I think they're on issue 4 or 5. I'm about an issue behind or so. And that's what I'm saying. They've done a masterful job with this canon. And I remember when they said they were doing a Darth Vader one. They did a Princess Leia one. There's a Kanan one now. There's a Lando. I think there's a Chewbacca one, issue number 1, Chewbacca. And then there's the regular Star Wars and another one, preparation for Force Awakens. And I said, well, how in the hell are you going to do these stories even though we know these characters? And then when you start reading Darth Vader, you say, oh. And when you read Lando, Lando was hilarious. These three, the 3 issues I read anyway, was like, oh yeah, they could easily. I'm telling you, between these novels and these comics, if Disney really wanted our money to like make us broke and just like doing nothing but Star Wars, there's so much story here. They got a book called Tarkin that's only about Admiral Tarkin. And you would say to yourself, well, how could that be any good? Then you read the novel and you're like, oh. You know, it's like they literally found ways to tell more story. A Lando miniseries would easily work based on what I'm reading. So yeah,
Hmm.
that would be awesome, and it would be too easy for them. That's why I don't understand. After looking at all these novels, after reading these novels, there's one book I just finished called Lost Stars, and I'm so convinced that should be a movie. I'm almost wanting to start a petition. That movie was so good. That book was so good. I think of it as a movie. Um, but yeah, a Lando miniseries could work. They're definitely doing. Their plans right now is to do a Star Wars movie every year. Every other year is going to deal with what they're calling right now the Skywalker trilogy. So they're going to do three movies that extend the Skywalker family story. So you got The Force Awakens, then there's going to be another one in 2017, and then one in 2019. In between those, they're going to be just in the universe. So 2017 is going to be about one of the fighter squadrons, and I think the one in 2018 may be the Boba Fett movie or something like that. So yeah, they could squeeze a Lando in there. They can do one now with Lando as an older person, because like I said, Lando is still in this universe. So
Yeah, but I think they could. I mean, it's Lando, so we know any story with Lando is going to be real cool. I mean, whether it's early Lando, I mean, I think that me personally, I'm very curious about the time with the Falcon and his time that he was out there. I mean, I think that would just be incredibly fascinating.
and they
Um,
haven't done that at all, because even the early stuff they have done, they've uh they've done some early stuff with him in the novels and even in the comics, and he's already had lost the Falcon. So so we still don't know anything about that time before.
right, right. That would just be absolutely amazing. All right, so let's get ready to roll out of here. What an absolutely incredible episode. I really hope that folks like it, share it, enjoy it. Just the history, Geekonius. Thank you so much for sharing so much of the history. I was riveted personally, and I mean I'm not one that's followed I've only watched the movies, um, so I was just it's just amazing what you shared. So I'll go around. Any final thoughts, Potbelly Samurai, before we close out?
Man, I got a lot of Star Wars books to read before the movie come out.
Yes, you do, and there's some really good ones to start with. Sith Lords, definitely one. Lost
Good news.
Stars.
Good news
Yeah.
is I'm trying to have that dissertation draft done in the next 2 weeks. So like once that's done and I send it off to my advisor, I can actually do something else with my life.
completely un- Completely understood. Well, we appreciate you just being here, and of course, Darth Geekonius. Any final thought?
Yeah, we didn't mention it, but this week was the 30th anniversary of Back to the Future. So it was pretty
Yeah.
cool to see what things they got right for October 21st, 2015, and which things they got wrong. They hit the nail on the 3D Shark sequels. They hit the nail on Donald Trump. um, and it was really cool that Nike finally did produce those shoes, but they gave Michael J. Fox a pair. He demoed them on a separate video, as well as Jimmy Kimmel. And Nike said they're going to put up a pair for auction, which is disappointing because
They did the McFlys like a couple of years ago.
yeah, but they didn't do the automatic lacing up. So they finally released the ones that actually you touch the top of it and they lace up on their own, like
Yeah.
in the movie. So they gave Michael J. Fox a pair, and they're going to auction the other pair.
Speaking. Just since you mentioned that, I don't know if you guys noticed. Did you guys notice that pumps are coming back too?
I noticed
Did
that a
you see
couple of months.
that?
I saw that a couple of months ago, and I said, "Well, the kids are wearing high top fades again, so anything's possible."
Anything is possible, and they're playing
I'm jealous.
16-bit.
I ain't been
Yeah.
able to
They're
grow hair
wearing the little
since the
tight
80s.
jeans again.
Yeah.
If they get leather like Eddie Murphy Delirious, and I'm just gonna be like, okay, I could.
Yeah. Potbelly, what were you trying to say? I could hear you. I couldn't hear what you were saying.
No, I said I'm jealous. I ain't been able to grow hair since the 80s. See the shirt or something, right? I can land a plane with this joint.
Yeah, the glare is incredible, man. It's almost That's awesome. Yeah, I know. It's almost like what is old is new again. There were just, I mean, we didn't even talk about it. Maybe that'll be for next week. They were just, actually we did talk about it on the last show. Just the number of things they're trying to reboot is just getting completely and totally out of hand. The number of reboots. Yes, I saw the Jumanji yesterday. They're trying to do again. Classic. Why would you want to reboot Jumanji of all things?
Why Jumanji? I can't even see that.
Yeah, and Geekons, I think last week we also talked about they're trying to reboot MacGyver.
Yep,
and
MacGyver.
And MacGyver and the A-Team. It was just like, good.
The X-Files comes back in January, but that's not a reboot.
Yeah.
That's not a reboot.
Yeah, so it's just crazy. So thanks everyone. Really appreciate everyone who tuned in. For everyone who was in the chat room, thank you so much. We had Bison, we had Duke CT, we had also, of course, we had the numero uno galactic traveler, playboy extraordinaire, Geek Soul Brother. Thanks so much. Chairman of the board, hanging out with us tonight. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Make sure that all of you that are watching, and hopefully you're sharing this with friends and loved ones, because this was awesome. You can also like us on Facebook at The Black Geeks. We're also on Twitter at The Black Geeks. Definitely follow The Black Geeks Twitter feed, because that's how you can find out about shows and even find out about how to get tickets to movies, Bison.
No, I can't give you a how-to. That was sheer luck.
That's true. Well, that's true. That's not how-to, but just in case there is a ticket available, I think. But he said he's going to the one in Dallas he's going to IMAX. But also make sure you go to www.
Ours is 3D, I think.
No, it isn't.
It's not.
Our theater is not 3D. They've never thrown a 3D in that theater, unless.
No, it was 3D.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's not IMAX. It's 3D.
Yeah, they don't have IMAX.
Yeah, they don't have IMAX.
But it's still real 3D.
Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. That's right. I forgot it's not IMAX. Mine, the one I go to, is IMAX. So making sure www.theblackgeeks.com. We're also on Tumblr. We feed out links through there as well. So we're kind of all over the place. So just make sure that you like us and share us. Lots of different opportunities for you to interact with us. And we look forward to your feedback. Let us know what content you want us to cover. We'll definitely try to fit into the show as well. We like to have feedback. So thankfully this week we don't have King Face, who starts to shed clothes at this point in the show. Typically I'm the one to come out of clothes, but he for some reason wants to show his manliness to us. So I'm just going to casually slide out of this show and not worried about it. So thanks so much. Appreciate you all for watching. Make sure you tune in. We'll be back next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Peace.